What's up, everybody? Welcome to House Groups. We're so excited to be up and going again in 2017. We're in the middle right now of this series called For the Sake of the World, where we're taking a look at the vision and the direction of Revision Church, just kind of who we are and where we're headed and what it is we want to be defined by as a church. I think it's an interesting question to think about, like what we want to be defined by as a church, because we look out in the world around us, there's a whole bunch of churches with a whole bunch of different vision statements and a whole bunch of different mission statements and a whole bunch of different programs, and there's all kinds of thoughts and words associated with it. But when we crack open the Bible, it seems that over and over and over and over again, God communicates to us that if He could boil His vision for the church down into one single word, that word would be love. I mean, it's all over the New Testament. Beloved, let us love one another. Whoever loves knows God. Whoever doesn't love doesn't know God, because God is love. Love covers a multitude of sins. These three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. This is how the world will know that you're my disciples. This is how the world will know the way that you love. And I think what Jesus is talking about there, and Paul and Peter and John, are the big idea that God is trying to get across to us is not so much that we would just love with that really cheap, easy type of love that comes naturally to us as human beings. That type of love that loves lovely things and lovely people. The type of love that loves things and people that have something of value to offer us. I think God's inviting us and calling us and casting a vision for us of the church loving with this different type of love. This type of love that creates value in the things that it chooses to love rather than seeks value from the things that it chooses to love. Let me explain. When I was a kid, my little sister Kelsey had this tattered blanket that she called her whoopee. And at one point in time, it had been a really pretty blanket, like this white blanket that said baby across it and had silk edges, and it was my sister Carrie's. By the time Kelsey inherited the blanket, the whoopee, and fell in love with it, it was just a rag. I mean, it was just a tattered old rag, but she loved it. And I'll never forget how much she loved this blanket, because once we were on a family trip to St. Louis, and we left, and we were probably 30 or 45 minutes out of the city. And when you're a little kid, that feels like hours and hours and hours. And then Kelsey noticed her whoopee was missing, and we had to go back. We had to go back. It didn't matter how much time we lost. We had to go get it, because if you loved Kelsey, you loved that blanket. I mean, she had all kinds of toys that were intrinsically more valuable than her whoopee, but there was nothing she loved more, and so there was nothing more valuable to Kelsey. You see, some things are loved because they're valuable, but some things are valuable because they're loved. And thank God for that. Thank God for that, because that's the kind of love that God has for us. Not this love that loves us because of how great we are, how perfect we are, what we have to offer Him, but this love that creates value in us. And what God does is paints a picture for us of His church, His community of people who've been called out. The ecclesia is the word for church in the New Testament. Ekkaleo, called out ones. And He paints this picture for us of His called out ones being a community that loves the world with that kind of love. That loves the people around them with that kind of love. That kind of love that creates value in them. And God says the single defining characteristic for the church, the single thing, if I could boil it down to one thing that I want my community in the world to be known for, is their love. Is their love. And sometimes we get that wrong. It's really easy to. It's easy to, as a pastor, to get it wrong and think like, the most important thing about the church is what we believe. And it's not that what we believe isn't important. It is. Or we think, the most important thing about the church is the programs that we have, or it's the sins that we don't do that other people do, so we can look down on them and say, well, we're better than you because we don't do that. And it's really easy to get caught up in thinking the church should be a lot of things, and the church should be a lot of things, but at the very foundation of it has to be love. It has to be love, because God is at the center of it, and God is love. And if we don't get love right, if we don't get it right, if that's not how the world knows us, even though that's how Jesus said the world ought to know us, then I don't think what we do matters. If who we are isn't defined and changed by the way that we love, then all the stuff we do is going to ring hollow in a world that needs love more than it needs anything else. In a world where love is in short supply, all the things that we do aren't going to have the impact that they could have if we don't love people in a way that adds value to them and points them towards Jesus. That's the vision that God is inviting us into as a church. That's how he's inviting us to live and to act and to interact with the people around us. And I wonder what would be different. What would be different about our world if love was the first word people thought of when you asked them, what do you think of the church? I wonder what would be different in our world when we went out on the streets and asked people, what do you think about Christians? If the first word that came to their minds, whether they liked it or not, whether they wanted to be a part of the church or not, whether they were sure about what they think of Jesus yet or not, if the first word that popped in their heads was love. Like, I don't know about the church, and I don't know about everything they believe, and I don't know about everything they do, but man, those people are crazy love. The love that they show, the way that they serve, the way that they give, who they are. Like, man, I don't know about Christians, but man, do they love. What would be different? What would be different about your life if that was the first word people thought of when I asked them what they think of you? I mean, is it? Is that the way your life is defined? Is that the lens through which you see the world? Is that the lens through which you interact with the people around you? And what would be different if it was? I want to challenge you this week to do something hard. Again, to love with this divine love rather than this natural, easy human love. I want to challenge you to think of somebody in your life who your life crashes into and intersects with on a regular basis who is really, really hard to love. I want to challenge you this week to find a way to do something intentional to show love to that person. Just to show love to that person. I challenge all of us to do it. Just to see what will happen. Because I believe at the core of who I am, I'm convinced that if we can just decide as a church, just as individuals, but also as a community who's doing this together and who's struggling with it together and who's fighting to be better at showing God's love together. But if we decide as a community, like at Revision, we're going to be a community defined by this stuff. And we decide we're going to love and we're going to look out at our world and at all the broken people and we're going to say, listen, I'm going to do this not because I need it, but because you need it. And because God's love compels me to care about your needs and your desires more than I care about my own. I think the world will change. I'm just convinced that God will do big, huge, incredible things through us if we do that. Because God's love does something really profound in us. It does something really profound. It creates infinite value in us in the midst of our brokenness. And because of that, we owe it to the world to walk out and create value in them by showing them that love and pointing them toward Jesus. That is a cool vision.